Best Florist of Raleigh by News and Observer 2023. She was featured in Better Homes and Gardens magazine. Her work has been featured on Fox's Our Kind of People. Owner of TG Floristry, located in Raleigh, North Carolina, Tiera George. Welcome to the Beautiful People series.
Hi.
How you doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Let's talk about, um, I know that you had some sort of interesting moments during 2019-20, the pandemic, and you were still in grad school. Let's talk about that a little bit and how that sort of worked through.
Yeah. So originally, when I graduated, I got a job and I was doing working for the state. So I was, well, kind of like the county type thing. And I was doing like community and school gardening. And I really, really liked it. So pretty much I was like a nutrition coordinator, for the county. And so what I would do is like, well, as assistant. So I would go through and kind of help them out, like go to the different schools and like set up the community gardens and the school gardens and things like that. We would often talk to a lot of the teachers and stuff about how to implement that into the curriculum to kind of make it a little bit more cohesive in the classroom, as we talk about, gardening, but also like, talking about science or math and kind of like bridging those things together. And so I really, really liked that. And I started to get a little bit more into it. And I was like, maybe I should go to grad school. I don't know. That was kind of where my mind was because although I really, really liked it, I just
Yeah.
wasn't being paid enough. So I
Okay.
was just like, maybe I should go back to school and let's see like what I can do there. And so I started applying for school, but in the meantime, I had picked up a job like at a grocery store. And I was working like in their beauty department and everything was, cool and I liked it. But when I switched and went to my master's program, I went in like an odd semester. And when I got there, there wasn't any scholarship money until the fall. So in the spring, like, you know, uh, you're gonna have to figure this out. And I was like, okay, all right, sounds good. So I transferred my grocery job, and the only position that they had was in florals. And I was like, okay, I could try this. So I winged my way into the position. I was going back to school for agriculture, and my concentrations in like urban horticulture, community engagement. So I was like, I can wiggle this a little bit, maybe. And they bought it, and I was like, okay. So now I was a floral associate, and my boss there, she was really, really great. She was really helpful. I started really enjoying it. And when I finally had to quit because I had to start like my research things and like my
Yeah.
teaching like at the university, it sucked. And so I would still do it in my free time and kept doing it and had I picked up like a couple customers and was doing farmers markets and all these different vendor markets, and it was really cool. And a lady had reached out to me, and I think this was kind of the turning point. She reached out to me and she was like, "Oh, Tiara, we love your flowers." She would like, "How would you feel about going retail?" And at that time, I had no idea what that meant. She was just like, "Retail would be cool." I was like, "What do you mean? Like, I come and sell my flowers there?" And she was like, "Well, we put it in order and you drop off flowers for us like every Tuesday or Wednesday." And yeah, and I was like, okay, so they had four stores, like it was four grocery stores. And I started by, getting bouquets out to them. So it might be like 20 to 30 bouquets at each store. And that was when I realized, oh, I think I'm in business. And I still finished school. But afterwards, I said, let's see if we can keep this going. Let's see what it does. And yeah, that's
That
where
is
I am now.
incredible. Oh my gosh. Isn't it interesting just how like things just line up and it's
Yeah,
the way that your life path goes. Uh,
yeah.
Jumping back to grad school, I know that you're a two-time graduate. Explain that
Yeah.
a little bit to us.
So I did my undergrad at NC State. My undergrad is in international studies, and my focus was in sustainability. My
Yeah.
concentration Spanish and psychology. And so, like I said, once I graduated, I went back to school, back to NC State, and then did my master's at NC State.
Yeah.
And so I have my master's in agricultural education and my concentration in horticulture.
Do you think that you're a natural educator because you do workshops and mentoring and things like that for your shops?
Yeah.
Do you feel like
Yeah,
you're an
I
educator?
I'd say so. And a lot of people in my family are also educators. So, like my aunts, my grandparents, and things of that nature. My dad was like a swim instructor, so I think that very much so it's kind of like in the blood type of thing. And I think when I first started the flower shop, like I didn't know what it was going to be. Like I thought that a flower shop had to be one particular thing. I thought,
Yeah,
okay, you do flowers, you have a retail flower shop. But I was like, no, like I like the teaching part of it. I like the hosting
yeah,
classes. I like this thing. And then I think it was maybe like a year in, maybe a little before that, but I realized I was like, I can make this shop focus on whatever I want.
yeah,
There's studio florists, there are wedding florists, there are florists in so many different avenues. I was like,
yeah,
I can like do this, like along with the other stuff, but like I can really like laser in on this. And I think that that was like pretty crucial for me and just realizing like it's your business. So you can kind of shape that and do whatever and focus on whatever it is you kind of want to focus on. So yeah, I
yeah.
think education is definitely like the foundation of my business for sure.
Nice. So when you were going through sort of that growth and becoming a full-time florist, what
Mhm.
what made you kind of go the path of getting a brick and mortar retail shop rather than just focusing on like events and weddings or corporate work?
Um, well, I think I was also pushed into that. So for me, I believe a lot in like divine intervention and, walking
Yeah.
the path. And so it was after Mother's Day, like what was that, 2019, 2020? It was after Mother's Day, we had had a really, I think maybe it was Valentine's Day, we'd had a really great season. And at that time, like I said, I was in grad school, I had two roommates. And I was doing this from that kitchen. And then I also had an ex-boyfriend that I was keeping in contact with and doing it from his garage. And so I was going back and forth between those two places. And I was like, maybe it's time just to get a small studio, like just a small studio. Like I really only wanted to be a studio floor. So I was like, maybe just a
Yeah.
small studio, make things and get things out. And I just happened to be online one day and I was searching and I found a place and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And I was like, oh, it's downtown. Like, that's super nice. Like, oh my
Even
goodness.
better. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, let me just call, just like a random filler call. This was the day after the holiday. So you're super tired after
Yeah.
Mother's Day, after Valentine's Day. Like it's crazy. So it's just like the day after. I was like, let me just give a little ring. I was like, he's not even gonna pick up. I call, he picks up on like the second ring and he's like, hey, he's like super short. He's like, hey, how are you? I was like, good. I was like, yeah, I'm interested in the property that you have on 130 East Morgan. He was like, yeah, he was like, I'm actually right here right now. He said, can you get here in about 10 minutes? I said, oh,
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 okay.
okay. So
There's that divine intervention.
yeah, I got up and I put on some pants and was like, okay, let's get there. And I got there and he was so nice. And he had connected me with like another broker. And I was talking to the other broker, and then they were like, so what do you want to do? And I ended up like signing like a letter of intent like that day for the space. And everything kind of just started falling into place there. And so I didn't know that I wanted to be a shop florist, but I think that that was the best thing for me because I think that flowers are really important, but I really mostly see flowers as like kind of a vehicle for creativity and a
Yeah.
vehicle for education and like a vehicle for like team building and stuff like that. Like I like to create moments and memories and conversations and stuff around flowers. It's a little bit more important to me. And so I think that having that space, and when I got the space, I thought it was way too big. I was just like, I can't do anything. I have a classroom in the back of my shop, I have a patio area out front. And it was like, oh, like I could do all the things that I said I wanted to do. Like, so I host my workshops back there and I host my workshops up front, and we have little parties and we have like, it's cool because I never, like before this, I think I had maybe walked into a flower shop one time. And so I think that when you walk into my shop, it's just what I thought that a flower shop should be and kind of shaped it from there. So,
Nice.
yeah.
So I know that you have such a sense of community, not only featuring local artist product in your store, but also, your sustainability, your, buying from local farmers.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about your community.
Yeah. So I think prior to, like, I would always hear people say, like, shop local, buy local, shop small. And in my head, I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna go to the farmer's market. That sounds good. And but I think now it means a little bit more to me.
Of
I
course.
don't think like I said, I really understood that concept, but everything I think about my business, I wanted to highlight people that live in North Carolina, like local artisans, local makers, and things of that nature. So um it started with, wanting locally made products in there. And then, having those people that keep coming to your shop, and you keep talking to them, you're like, oh, like this person is nice. Like this is a friend. So like I hang out with some of these people that have their products there. And, we work a lot of events together. And that part, like the connecting there has been great. And then also even like the farmers. So we use a lot of cooperatives when it comes to sourcing our
Yeah.
farmers. And a lot of the cooperatives are like woman owned.
Nice.
Women owned, and a lot of the farmers are also like primarily women as well. So between the months of like March all the way to like maybe the top of November, I'd say we're about 90% local. The only thing that we're pretty much outsourcing is going to be like our roses.
Mm.
Let's see, like our roses, carnations, like some of like our line flowers, but for most off, like we try to do things pretty seasonally. And the way that we've adapted that is that when you order, it's not like a traditional flower shop. So when you order, you can choose our seasonal arrangement and you can pick a color and we can like work within those colors and stuff like that. But we try to use as much product as we can that we're getting. So we can also like kind of have that positive feedback loop with like our farmers and like our community and, also like educating them about, okay, sometimes you have to give people like a hard stop and say like this is not in season, we do not have this, these are the options that we have, and kind of talking to them a little bit about like smarter purchasing as well. So
Nice. So being a Black woman business owner, did you find it, the process of becoming kind of what you are right now, easy? What
it was difficult, I think, in a lot of different ways. And
what were your
so
some of your struggles or hurdles that you had to overcome?
yeah, so I think with like wholesalers, I don't always feel like my orders or the things that I would put in felt like they were taken very seriously. Or even like when you first start out, like, you don't know all the names of the flowers or you're trying to like figure things out and, like people aren't especially patient, which
Mm.
I can understand that a little bit, but sometimes like dropping the ball on orders or if I'm ordering something like them not letting me know they don't have it. And then I just get there and they're just like, oh, well, like you can take this, just kind of feeling like you're placed last because you don't have
Yeah.
that same like credibility, I guess, with the person. So that was something. I think when I was trying to get my shop in general, like trying to get a loan for the business was really, really hard. So a lot of well, not a lot of it, like everything that I spent was pretty much like credit cards and like my own personal money. So I worked a lot of jobs when I was in grad school. So I was able to kind of save up a little bit and kind of fund some of the build out and stuff like that for my shop. That was pretty difficult. Um, I'd say I think sometimes like, just I think existing sometimes in this space is also really difficult because it's not a lot of people that look like you. And even though you can find like similar experiences and commonalities with like, maybe the way business is going during certain seasons or, just talking or wedding design, it's like on a foundational level, it's hard to find that community. I think that also like our landscape of like what floristry looks like in North Carolina, it feels like very, very spread out or either that there are a lot of designers in one area, but there's not a lot of talking. So I think that was hard, just like trying to figure things out and trying to figure out like who to talk to, and who can answer your questions. And then on a business standpoint, I think it was pretty difficult, for the simple fact of when I would reach out to like try to get business advice or business advisors and things like that in the area, it was often hard because it's like there was not a lot of understanding. Like you would express to them, like, okay, I'm trying to do this with the business and I want to do this and XYZ. And they're just like, well, do you have the money to do that? Do you have this? Do you have that? Like conversations were cut very short.
Dismissive, yeah.
Yeah, and in a lot of those instances, when I would ask questions or, so a lot of this, I will say that this business has been trial and error completely, just trying to figure it out and seeing what works. But I didn't really have like a mentor. I tried to find like a lot of mentors, and I didn't really know anyone who could serve as a mentor, anyone who was in this space, or anyone who could just be a business mentor in general. That would take you seriously. So I think that was really a lot of the problems like early on. And like, I mean, even now I still don't have a business mentor. But it's just like you just trial and error it out and like hope for the best and see what works. And, so I think those have been struggles for sure.
Yeah. Do you think post COVID, post George Floyd, that we're better, like through at least through the floral community, better, worse, the same? I mean, obviously we have a ton of work to do
Yeah.
for inclusion and acceptance. What's your take on that?
I think that it's been, hmm, I think that support sometimes can feel like it comes and goes. I think that sometimes, like everything, like I think that through my community, I feel pretty supported, like the people that shop with us, the people that
Yeah.
patronize our business and stuff. But I think that, outside support sometimes can come and go, like depending on like the season or the holiday. And like florals in general are like kind of seasonal, but you can still, of course, do business pretty like roundabout. But, like we'll have corporations and stuff reach out and we do quite a bit of corporate work. But sometimes we do most of our corporate work during Black History Month. And, sometimes we're doing like more like, oh, you're having a Black event at your museum. Oh, you would love to feature a Black florist. Like, sometimes you get booked for those reasons. And then like I don't think that there's a lot of language around it. So sometimes people will reach out and say like, hi, we're looking for more Black vendors. Can you be a Black vendor at our event? So you can do like it's just the
Do
way
you,
people approach you sometimes is a little
do,
different.
do you find it insincere? Or do you find it insincere or maybe like quota or,
I think that sometimes I hmm, I feel like we have a really good product. I feel like we do really good work. We have a really good product. I feel like um, I push myself to do very well, and I feel like I also push my team to do very well.
yeah,
And so I think that we have a good product and a consistent product. So I think that people reaching out to us is a result of that. But I think it also sometimes comes coupled with, we need to talk to this many Black florists, we need this many Black vendors, or like, having like sometimes we're not hub certified. So, sometimes I'll have people say like, oh, like we would have used you if you were hub certified, or, because we need to be able to record
explain
that.
that a little bit. Hub certified. What is hub?
Yeah, so
For the
it's
viewers that don't know.
Yeah, so it's for minority businesses, women-owned businesses, things like that. And, like you can be a Black-owned business, or you can be an Asian-owned business, or you can be any of those types of businesses. And outward facing, like people can look at it and see, like, oh, yes, this is what this is, but you have to file this with the state. And it's this very long, like drawn out process, and like tons of documentation, and like it's like an actual credential that when corporations or businesses and stuff, when they decide that they want to use you, they can go in and say if they have to take any type of official like record keeping at the end of the year, they can say, oh, we utilized this many minority owned businesses or this many women owned businesses and stuff like that. So sometimes if you don't have that credential when it comes to sometimes like government contracts, or when it comes to like state level things, or like larger corporations. So like we were doing some things with the airport, and just different types of things, they want to be able to check off those boxes. And
Yeah,
so sometimes they won't use you simply if you don't have that. Like you might have the things that they're wanting, but if you don't have that specific like certification and that accreditation, then, like you can't even mark, like there are certain applications you can't even mark you're a Black owned business if you don't have like certain credentials to also like say like
interesting.
certified Black owned business that is run by this person and has like these type of things. But it's a pretty drawn out process for sure.
Well, it sounds like it. That's insane. Um, but I would hope that, that program is used in the right way.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? Do you
yeah.
have any interesting projects coming up or news courses that you would like to share with our viewers?
Let's see. We have a project coming up. We're doing an installation at Dorothea Dix Park in Raleigh. That's going to be a pretty big installation. I think it's going to be a semi-permanent slash permanent installation.
Right.
It'll be up
Awesome.
for, yeah, I think it'll be up for 3 years, 2 to 3 years.
Wow.
So it's going to be a statue, and then there's like florals, and it's going to be like on a building, like on the side of a building type thing.
Is there a theme to it? Or are you the only florist? Tell me a little
So
bit.
I'm the only florist on the project. There's also a sculptor on the project, and then it's a citywide project that they're working on. So right now, everything that I'll be working on is at the fabricators. So they have like these aluminum panels and stuff that like I'll be connecting to. Of course, this is faux flowers. So they have these like aluminum panels that I'll be collecting to, and then it's forklifts and fabricators and all the whole nine. So that's probably one of the most exciting projects we have coming up that I'm preparing for and getting product in for. Um, Aside from that, just trying to do a lot of weddings. We have a lot of our seasonal workshops coming up. So we do wreath workshops, we do ornament workshops, and we do holiday arrangement workshops around this time. Those are pretty popular. So just a lot of workshops pretty much on a back-to-back type of basis.
Okay,
So
keep him busy. What advice can you give young people of color, young Black girls and boys for becoming a business owner or in the floral industry?
um I think in the business owner thing is probably ask as many questions as you can. I think it would be great if you can ask one person and get all the answers and they can tell you everything you need. But I think the biggest thing is like to be flexible, to keep an open mind. Be creative, like you won't have the money to do everything when you first start and like take it in phases. I
Yeah.
had this really, really big plan of like everything that I wanted to do. And, sometimes you can only do stuff like, a little bit, like maybe you can only do it like at 10%. Like you might not be able to do everything that you
Yeah.
really want to do as soon as you start off. But I think like keeping a plan and like taking inventory of like, I want to do this and continue opening doors for you to do that and not losing track of that is the biggest thing. And like I said, just keep your mind open to, everyone. I try to look at everyone as they have something to share, something to offer, something valuable that they can talk about. And it's, like I said, you won't get it all from one person, but if you keep your mind open and, try to walk into situations and just listen to what people are saying and, you know, think about like what's important to you once you evaluate what they're saying and try to make a plan for yourself. I think that that's the best thing. And in um, florals, probably my biggest advice is to practice, do it, but like also document it. My business page started off as my hobby page. That is why it's not TG Floristry. It's just TG underscore floral because I needed just like a quick name
Yeah.
so I could just like post stuff and like I was making things and I was proud of them. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. This looks so
Yeah.
good. And none of that would have ever happened if I wouldn't have started to just post my content and it wasn't even content at that point. It was just a picture of an arrangement, like, look at this or look at that. And people would look at it and be like, oh wow, like, can I buy that? And I'd be like, whoa, you want to you want to spend some money on
Yeah, that's
it?
awesome. That's
So
great.
I think that the biggest thing is, start before you're ready, post before you're
Yeah.
ready. Be willing to be imperfect. I tell the people that I work with every day and, even our customers, like I run a very, very imperfect business, but we try really hard to
Yeah.
be about the things that we are really going for. So just admit that you're growing and shake it off. Don't try to be perfect. Be transparent. Even if you're working with other people, ask them for feedback pretty often. See what you're doing wrong, see what you're doing right, and try to, consistently just like evaluate your progress and how you're doing, and also how you feel, because how you feel could change. You could really, really love it some days, and you can really, really not like it some days. But if you can come back and still keep loving it the other days, then, it might be a good thing to stick to. So.
That is such valuable advice. I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Beautiful People series. You are so lovely.
Thank
And
you.
I hope so much success for you and lots of divine interventions.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Tiera.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.